Okay, Tashila.
Okay, good day and welcome to the 2025 IABC Africa Silver Quill. What winners do differently? Today, we're pulling back the curtain, not just on how to enter, but how to think like a winner. This isn't just about polish, it's about power. I'm Tashila Hans, coordinator of the IABC Africa Silver Quills, and it is my pleasure to host you today. I'd like to introduce you to our speakers. It's my honor today to introduce you to Riana Sinden, Director of Professional Development, IABC Africa. Christine Breet, Deputy Chair of IABC Africa. And Elsabe, Director of Quills, IABC Africa.
Hello.
Before we dive into the mechanics of a winning entry, we're going to start with something far more human, the internal voices that stop us before we even begin. Riana, would you kindly take us through the real barriers behind the hesitation?
Thanks, Tashila. Gosh, indeed. I think I speak for many when I say the fear of rejection and failure and judgment is real. And when we pour our hearts into our work and we submit it as an award entry, it takes incredible courage and it is nerve-wracking at the best of times. So perhaps the question we should be asking ourselves is, how do I turn these self-doubts on their head, so to speak? And I believe the answer lies in the way of our working, our daily discipline, and the quality of our thinking. So I would love to share an infographic just to sort of guide my conversation. So I'm just going to add this quickly. There we go. Righty. Can you guys, is that visible? Is it all good, Tashila?
Yes, thank you. I can see your screen.
So this is something I found on LinkedIn the other day, and it's by Harvard Business Review. And it's the 4 types of linked thinking that leaders need. And I think it applies perfectly to what we do as communication leaders, the kind of work we do, and the excellence that we lead. And so when we look at this from a perspective of integrating expert thinking, critical thinking, systems thinking, and strategic thinking, I think it needs to be a discipline and it needs to be a daily discipline. And so by doing this, we set ourselves up for success. We grow confidence. And so in effect, coming back to the question, is that when we enable excellence for ourselves, we also enable excellence for our clients and our employers. And so I think the best way to beat any form of self-doubt is to embed integrated thinking and quality thinking from the outset. And that breeds confidence. So I'm happy to share this with you. I think it's a beautiful infographic, and it really speaks to what we do on a daily basis, whether we are involved in complicated projects and long-term programs, whether it's short-term stints. The fact of the matter remains that we are experts, and at times we need to rely on experience and our qualifications and our gut feel. But there's always room for critical thinking, and we have to pause, ask the right questions, avoid assumptions, because we sometimes end up, well, and it's true, we sometimes end up solving the wrong problem because we didn't ask the right questions. Systems thinking would clearly apply to stakeholder mapping, because everything that we do in communication is around relationships and stakeholders, and it's all integrated and it's all intertwined, and obviously strategic thinking. And I think in the context of strategic thinking and pulling it back to a core entry is the imagination and the creativity to go beyond the status quo. And to shift the dial, or turn the dial rather. So I think that's it from me, Tashila, on that one. I don't know if I've answered the question.
Thank you very much, Riana. That was most insightful. I definitely would like for you to please share this infographic, and I'm sure everybody else that's joining us today would be very appreciative. Thank you for that. Christine, I think maybe you can just walk us through, the best of the best IABC Gold Quill entries, not to intimidate anyone, but just to show you exactly how strategic thinking benefits and beats the flashy design.
Super. I will do that. Pardon, can everybody see my my screen?
Yes.
Super. Okay. So thank you, Tashila. Thanks, Elsabe and Riana. I think I just wanted to start off by saying, yes, it's wonderful to receive a Quill. It's even better that sort of, yay, I've got a best of the best. But what the Quills is about is it's an opportunity for you as a business communicator to measure the standard of your work against international best practice, to see whether you are doing the right thing and whether you are doing it good enough. So please don't enter it with the idea if I'm not going to win an award of excellence, or if I'm not going to win a best of the best, then I'm never going to enter again. This is a process. I can tell you that the first 2 Quills that I entered, I didn't win anything, not even a merit prize. And then I sort of sat at the feet of the masters in the IABC and said, okay, I know that my programs are good. I know that my projects are great. I know that my outcomes are fantastic. So what am I doing wrong? And thank you, Elsabe and Tashila, for hosting these events, because I think that is exactly what these webinars are about, is how do we learn how to write what we need to do and how to articulate it so that it's within the IABC standard, but also that we know that we are using the international best practice for all of this. Okay. So I'm going to quickly, and with emphasis on the word quickly, because unfortunately I can't speak or I can't talk through everything in detail. But the case study was On the Road to Success, and I changed the name of the company. So let's just call them ABCD Group. And this was a training initiative with a very strong communication focus. And it was done by myself and by Teresa Lee. So at the beginning, you'll see that you have to write a project description. Then you have to write what your business and communication need. You need to do your stakeholder analysis, your goals and objectives, your strategy, your implementation, and then what is your goals, what you actually achieved. So it consists out of 7 segments, and you only have 4 pages to do all of this on. And then they got clever and said, okay, but you can't make it smaller than Arial 10, and your side margins can only be a certain size. So, but what it comes down to is ultimately, as communicators, we are wordsmiths. So this is also an opportunity for you to show what you have done in the least amount of words with the most impact. So in this case, our project description is ABCD was, pardon, ABC Group is a transport management company. They started with one single person, and they started 70 years ago. At the moment, they are a registered company. They've got 350 permanent employees, but they actually give work to about 5,000 people in total. And they provide an end-to-end supply chain solution internationally. So the company has been kept up to date. They are very technologically driven. They have a control room called C24, where it's literally 24-hour surveillance of all their trucks that are on the road. The young gentlemen, because it's mostly gentlemen working in there, are young, they're experienced, they have no background or knowledge about what supply chain is, or even what the entire transport process was. So through a series of surveys, focus groups, and interviews, we then realized, oh, okay, we need to intervene. We need to provide them with knowledge about the industry, about the company, their clients, and how can they interact, engage, and communicate with their clients so that it's more effective for the business. And what is mostly looked after is, when you look at your project, is was there some form of research? And this is important. So any project that you start off, just look, what are the research points? Can I maybe look at previous communication audits, previous surveys? What are those things that I can use as the basis for my decision to actually start this whole venture on? Then if we go to our business need or our opportunity, this is where you answer, so why are we doing it? Why is the business willing to invest money in this project? What is in it for the business? Okay. So once again, then it's an overview, and with us, it was a question of they had to increase their loads per day. But for that, they needed additional transport service providers, and that they could only get through improved communication with their existing transport service providers, but also reaching out to new people. But remember, now in our research, we found out that they don't really know how the supply chain works, and they don't know how to interact, and they can't communicate. And because they can't communicate and they can't engage, they can't retain transport service providers. So there's never a growth in terms of this entire situation. So we were contracted, first of all, to help them with the implementation of a new ERP system. And then they realized that that's not actually the problem. And once again, that's why your research is so important. And I'm sure that Elsabe and Riana and a lot of people on the call can actually test or testify to it, is people start off thinking, yay, we have to solve this problem. And when we do our research, then we find out that it's actually something completely different. So that is very important to remember. So if your business need is to increase your load so that you can make more money, obviously, because that is what the whole business is about, and then retain your transport service providers, what is your communication need? And your communication need is, how do I use communication to ensure that we achieve our business need, that we can gain insight into the business need? So our communication need here was to, let me just see it, is to understand the business standing operating procedures, their roles and responsibility, as this would improve internal communication amongst the team and other departments, because we also found out that they were all working in silos. Through communication, we will be able then to empower them with general knowledge, improving their confidence, operational efficiency, and ergo the company's profitability. So it was all a matter of scale. The more loads booked and completed daily, the higher the gross profit. Okay. Any questions about business opportunity and your communication opportunity? So I can't see the screen, so Tashila, if you can just indicate if there are any questions or anything. Okay. Then we get to what Riana referred to as our systems thinking or our stakeholder analysis. They are your most important grouping because they are the people that you are going to communicate to. And remember, when we communicate, 9 out of 10 times we communicate because we want a change of some sort, either a thinking change or a behavior change. So for us to know how to communicate, we need to know who do we communicate to. We need to know what their preferred channels are, what their preferred language are, and what kind of interaction would be the best for them. So if we look at this, oh, and you also try and, if you can, divide them into a primary, secondary, and if it is there, a tertiary group. So in this case, Our primary group was our C24 team. In total, we had 48 of them. They were all male. They were all between the ages of 18 and 15. They were multicultural and multiracial. Their education varied from just having a matric or finishing high school up to having a master's in business administration and MBA. Some of the controllers have already been working there for 15 years, and others literally started a few months before we started on the project. Our languages was a modge-podge of English, Afrikaans, Zulu, and Sotho, but their business language is English, and therefore it was decided that all communication will happen in English. So during our focus group, it became clear that they really wanted to have more knowledge, but they don't know how to do it, and more knowledge will give them that confidence to grow in their groups. And this was a company that was built on strong Christian values. It was extremely important to incorporate the values of the company in all communication and in all training and in all events that we did. So for that group specifically, emails was the best because they physically sat for 12 hours in front of a screen, but they also had something like 24 WhatsApp groups that they were busy with their transport service providers. We then had printed material that we put up next to their screens, because once again, that's where their focus is for the entire day. So it was easy access. There was an absolute longing for face-to-face communication, one-on-one as well as group communication. And we realized, because we are working with young men, we need to make it fun. So we gamified every single thing that we did. We turned it into a game. We turned it into a competition. We had leaderboards. We had scoreboards. We made it as fun as possible, because also remember, when working with adults, that's one of your best ways to get a message across, obviously depending on what the message is. So then we had secondary groups, we had tertiary groups, which was our board of directors. And you can see for each of those, we had our own version. The goals and objectives is the area where most people fall out of the bus. Okay, so you need to know what your overall goal is, what the holistic view is, what you want to achieve. This will be successful if question, and then you need to break it down into your objectives. We're looking at output, outcome, and business objectives. So those are the three main objectives. Output, how I remember it, it's normally tactics, like we are going to produce 12 newsletters, or we need to see 17 people. It's something that you can measure, and it's something normally that is tangible. Where outcome is, how do we change behavior? How do we ensure that there is a different way of thinking? How do we ensure that we impart knowledge? So that's your outcome. And your business impact is, we made 10 Rand or $10 a day. We want to move to $20 a day, just to sort of simplify that. But remember, it needs to be smart. So let's take this outcome here. So the C24 team must be able to conduct meaningful conversations with their transport service providers to ensure that there is retention, and we're using their gateway, which is like a portal in the ERP system that they had, and how are we going to do that? To train them on communication and engagement techniques. And our other outcome that walked hand in hand with that was to improve our transport service provider retention with 25%. It needs to be measurable, with an additional 5% increase in our transport service provider retention per month from September until the end of this project. So it needs to be extremely clear, extremely detailed. And as I said, this is the one thing where people fall out of the bus. because they don't think when they start with a strategic communication project, what do I need to achieve at the end of this? What are my goals? What do I want to change? And then once the project is finished, now they suddenly try to work their way back with the Midas touch. Our next step is our solution overview. And the solution overview is basically what is your strategy. So what did you do to achieve this? So there were engagement surveys, there were focus groups, there were interviews. We compiled a list of the topics that they wanted to know more about. And then we developed a 12-week course that literally took everything in, what they said and what they wanted to know and what they had to know. We were extremely fortunate because we were able to get the managers and all their, like the CEO, the CFO, the COO, all of them were involved at one stage or the other. So for every single communication session that we had a senior manager there present in the room. We had sessions in the morning, in the afternoon, and later afternoon because it's a 24-hour shift, and we had to accommodate all of that. And the leaders were committed; they were there every single step of the way. Okay. So our key messages. This is something else that people tend to forget in the IABC Quills is write down what your key messages is, because that pulls through to your work samples. Is that you have to, ours were an engaged TSP that's trusted, empowering our team for industry success, learning together, growing together, and building bridges for effective partnerships. And then what we also did at the end is we had another survey, another focus groups to see if our baseline said A, where are we currently, and how does that compare and link to our goals and our objectives that we set out. Our measurement and our evaluation. So let's give you an example. Let's take that one again that we just spoke about. So we spoke about what the outcome was, and then what did we achieve? We achieved a 5% increase in active TSP. We increased from 15% to 35%, measured from September to November. And then just a reason why it wasn't as high as we hoped that it would be. The impact was there was an 8% increase in tons per day. The loads increased from 180 to 260 per day, and the gross profit we could only measure at the end of it. And then what we also find is very nice to put anecdotal feedback in there to say, when we did our research at the end in terms of how it went, this is what happened. I realized I did not put in the implementation. So in your implementation slide, it's normally, what are your challenges? So our challenges was, it was 24-hour shifts. They worked on a rotation scale. Our challenge was that not everybody was close, so we had to really coordinate to get access to everybody. And unfortunately, one of our challenges was that everybody except the CEO believed that this could work. So we had a constant battle to convince him, what are we doing, and to show him that there's an impact. I am literally just going to quickly show you what the work samples is. Because as Elsabe mentioned, everybody talks about the work plan. And that's, in theory, maybe the easy part, because that's the part that you have already thought out and that you have implemented. But what does your work samples look like? So, Riana, I think you are going to talk about what the percentage shift is between the work sample and the work plan. But let's say the one is 70 and one is 30. I'm not quite sure what that percentage is. So I told you ours were based on games. So we had our workshops. In our workshops, we had change management. So we had training booklets for all of them that they had to complete. We had facilitated leaded workshops, because we had all the managers in each of those sessions. They had to learn how to facilitate those sessions to be part of the workshop, so that they could deliver the communication message in the best possible way. So that's just a photo to show that everybody that was involved. We had handouts there. You can see the CEO was involved. There's the MD was involved. There's the COO. And we did role play. We did learning. We developed info sheets that we handed out to all of them. Once again, it was games developed. So this one, for example, so they have about 12 different products that they move around, and it's manganese, it's iron, it's coke, it's aluminium, the whole thing. And so Teresa came up with this brilliant idea where we had objects, and then you had to say what was the base product of that project, of that object, and that was linked to something that they moved around. So it was just a fun way for them to know what the products that they are moving are being used for. We played a lot of Jenga with them, time games. We developed an info map, a visual map, so that they could understand the entire process, where they fitted into it, how it works. We made a video. Videos work extremely well. They're effective. That's just an idea of the research that we did, of our reports. So you'll see it's very comprehensive. And this is what your IABC panel is looking for. There's just some feedback in terms of what we got from the people. Then we did a poll on how they experienced what the training was all about, the helicopter view. And you can see we were lucky everything was green, so it helped. Then we had this little money key called Dickie. So it was an animated truck. That truck is still in a glass room. It was the first truck ever of that company. So it's like the company mascot, and Dickie was used to bring out messages and important notes. So that was the mascot. We had certificates for everybody, and they got the certificates. And then just an example of the communication training manual that we did for them. And I think I'm way over my time now, Sheila, my apologies. But hopefully that was an overview that could help you to understand what you need to put into your quill, and how to a degree it actually links back to the work sample that I know Elsabe is also going to talk about. So thank you very much for that, Sheila.
Thank you so much, Christine. I think we are most impressed, and I think we've all had a chance to see what a winning entry looks like in practice. And I think it's time to just unpack why it scored so well. So I think to help us all decode that invisible line between good and gold, Riana, will you kindly walk us through the official scorecard and what really separates a 4 from a 7?
Alrighty, let's go. And I just want to share this. Give me a second. This is the one I'm looking for. Add. Righty. So we have a 7-point scale of excellence. So let's have a quick look at 4. Let's start at 4, and you'll see that it is defined as average, competent approach or results, professionally sound and appropriate. And so we want to reach for the stars. So how do we jump from a 4 to a 5? And if we look at 5, you'll see that it's better than average, and it demonstrates a strategic approach, and it aligns the communication solution with the business need to deliver meaningful results. And Christine alluded to this. So important to illustrate the results achieved. The proof is in the pudding, as the saying goes. And then, in order to score a 6, and that's where you want to lead, that's where you want to go if you want to have a silver, or earn a silver quill, significantly better than average, which demonstrates an innovative, strategic approach, takes all elements into account, and delivers significant results. So it's a beautifully integrated strategy that literally come together, right? And then 7 is purely outstanding. This is the kind of entry where you literally can't fault. It's perfection. And we all aim for perfection. But a 6 is brilliant. So from a 4 to a 6 to a 7, I'm sure all of you can see there's a significant difference. And the difference lies in the application and showing that you as a communication leader enabled significant results. So I don't know if there's anything else that Elsabe or Christine would like to add, but I'm going to pause there.
Riana, yeah, if I can maybe say something.
Go for it.
It looks so easy because, I mean, there it is. It's on paper, but it's a different ball game to try and understand what is that difference. And I wanted to urge people, and Elsabe, maybe I'm now threading or stepping where you are going to talk, but ask for guidance. Reach out to someone that you know that has won a Quill in the past, or that has entered a Quill in the past, that has received feedback, and ask them, how can I do this better? As I told you, the first 2 entries of mine just bombed so badly. But the feedback that I got was so fantastic, and that's why I just kept on going. And I think that's the nice thing about Quills. It's not just, oh dear, sorry, you got a 3, this is a bad entry. It's, why didn't you add that? Think about this. You can improve it by doing X, Y, and Z. And that's where the essence lies. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, and also I think the one difference with Quills going forward in Africa is we are creating a specific incubator group where we will all be able to share information, and there's going to be coaches there. It's going to cost you nothing. You have to join, but Tashila's going to share news about that later, where you'll see examples of best practices. And also after today, we're going to share our PowerPoints with you. It's going to make it so much easier for a first-time Quill entry. Also, Christine, my first entry was also, it bombed out. I just had no idea. And I think it's sad that you don't enter because you just don't know how to write this entry. It's ludicrous, and that must stop. And I think that's a big reason for why we're here. But Riana, you're lifting the curtain for us.
Sorry, let me just unmute myself. Yeah, so I remember when I did my entry a few years ago, it was incredibly daunting. But nothing beats the win. I'll tell you, it's something that you remember for the rest of your life. So it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. And the process is a learning process. So Christine so beautifully explained that you enter, you get feedback, you try again, you keep going. And I just want to say, just to sort of wrap it up, there's a discipline to this. But once you've nailed it, it becomes easier. So good luck to everybody and have fun, because we love what we do, right? This is why I'm in communication. So have fun, do the hard work, ask the tough questions, take the courage and bravery to enter. And, whatever, if it's meant to be, it will happen. It may be not happen the first time around. It may happen only the 3rd time around, but don't give up. So I'm going to pause there. Thank you, Elsabe and Christine. That's pretty much all from my side. Thank you.
Riana, may I just add something else? Or I can't find the raise emoji now. Please note that there is something called the IABC Midas Touch.
Yes.
And Elsabe, is it going to be on our website?
Yeah, we're actually putting everything in the chat today. I'm also going to refer to it. Natalie's going to load it for us in the next few minutes.
Then I'm going to keep quiet, and then you can chat about that.
So
Okay.
I want to chip in actually, because you just triggered something, Elsabe. It's a beautiful document, 40 pages of explaining exactly how things are evaluated. But here's the beauty to this document. Whether you're going to enter for a silver quill or perhaps even a gold quill, or you don't want to enter because you feel you're not ready yet, this is the kind of document that guides you in your day-to-day discipline and working. It's the kind of document that stretches your own thinking, especially in communication, because we want to raise the bar, not just for ourselves, but for the people that, our clients, our employees, and so forth. So please do yourself a favor and read that document. It's 40 pages. It's really good. It's solid. And it gives you a very good indication about, how do we distinguish generally whether you enter an award for an award or not? What is the difference between good and excellent? Thank you.
Yeah. And I
Thank you,
see,
Riana.
thank you, Nat. Nat's just loaded the how-to guide. We call it the Midas touch because the fable King Midas, everything he touched turned to gold. But I see IABC has changed, they now call it how-to.
And just to
Yeah.
add to that, how does one actually get started? Elsabe, if you can maybe just take us through bringing it all together and just showing everybody how to map their own work into a winning entry.
Okay, perfect. Right. I have asked Natalie to please drive my presentation. If you don't mind putting it on the screen, please, Nat. So when we enter, you can move on, Nat. You usually find that there are so many categories that you can enter. So the entry process that we're sharing today is for the communication management section. So you can either test your skills on how you manage communication, or you can test your skills in the skills section. There is a skills section where you can enter like my newsletter or a video or a sample of writing or whatever. But for today's purpose, we're just focusing on communication management because that seems to be the biggest entry area over the years. And okay, right. So when you enter, there's an entry form. It's got a tombstone where you write your name, the project name, how long you worked on it, etc., etc. And then it's got 6 questions. So part 1 of your entry is your work plan. Part 2 is your portfolio of evidence, or also called the work sample. We're going to do a next webinar about how to put your work sample together. So part 1 is basically all about your strategy. How did I strategize and come up with the idea to solve this business problem? Part 2 is I want to show you the cool things that I did. So part 2 is actually a mirror of what you said you did in part 1. You now prove, look, here's the proof that I did it. So there are 6 questions on in the work plan, and you're allowed to write up to 4 pages. Your work plan's not allowed to be longer. So the 6 questions, we call them sections. The first section is you've got to describe the business need and the communications opportunity or the communication environment in which you had to either fulfill this business need or solve this business problem. Then you move on to explain your target audience. Now, Christine very interestingly told us a lot about her target audience, but it's critical to understand that your target audience in section 2 has to inform section 4, which is your solutions overview. Because in section 4, I'm going to show you just now, the judges are looking for, okay, these are the solutions that you've come up with, but are they really appropriate for the audience you're trying to speak to? Today, I had a discussion with one of my clients who asked me to come up with a revival program for their company moral issues. And they'd already decided what and how they want to do it, but they've done no stakeholder analysis. They haven't done any research, and I can already see this going pear-shaped. So as a Quill evaluator, I'm already asking in my mind, oh, so 85% of your audience don't have computers, they work out in the field, but now you want them to do an online course and they haven't got access to data, they're not computer literate, etc., etc. So put on your evaluator, I don't want to call it a judging hat, let's call it evaluator hat. Put on your evaluator hat and think, if you're doing your stakeholder analysis, if you go and Google or use AI to come up with a stakeholder analysis, it's going to give you a very clever picture, but it's not really going to link your stakeholder to what is appropriate solutions for your problem. So just bear that in mind. Then you've got to state your goals and objectives. Christine's taken us through those. Then your solution overview. We're going to look at how the judges look at that just now. Number 5, your implementation and the challenges that you had, and then your wrap up. How do we know that you were successful? Yeah, so these are scored against a global standard. We are going to give you a cheat sheet. And if you, before you start working on your project, if you follow our cheat sheet 100%, you're going to strike gold, because that is the exact way of work that you should be following. And if you document your stuff, then you can enter your quill, you can prep your quill in a day's time. Otherwise, it can take you 2 weeks and even longer. Okay, so your work plan is 50% of the marks towards your quill, and your work sample is another 50%. Thank you, Nat. You can move along. Okay, so let's quickly look at the business need. What are the judges looking at? And this, I took the judges' scoring sheet and I actually put it in these slides. And I did load a copy of my presentation in the chat for you if you want to have a look at it later. So overall, they ask themselves, how well did this entry explain the context for the entry by clearly establishing the business need and the related communications opportunity? Then they assess this and they ask 3 questions and they judge you on all 3 of them. They look at the Rubicon, the rubrics. So the 7-point plan that Riana shared with you, if you look at the Midas Touch, which Natalie has now loaded, it's the how to guide. Every one of these 6 sections are discussed in great detail in that document. And when you open that document, I think it's around about page 9 or so, it starts with explaining the business need. Then it'll show you for each of these 3 questions on the screen, you can score either a 1 or a 2 or a 3 up to a 7. So and it'll tell you what you have to include in your quill to be able to score a 4, which is just well done, you've done your work properly, versus a 6, which is maybe a best of the best, or I'm definitely going to get a quill of excellence. So all the criteria is there, but the judges are going to look at to what extent you explained the business and the communication environment, including the challenges that have occurred. So why is it a problem? What made it difficult for you? They want to hear the story. To what extent did you align the communication opportunity and the business need to demonstrate or to explain how this project helped the organization? So Christine showed us that their business problem had to do with logistics. They were not making their logistics target. So the solution, the business opportunity there was to go and do research to find out if people even knew what their targets were. And if they knew exactly, did they understand the how-to of their jobs? And then they did research and they found, oh gosh, hardly anybody knew what the targets were. And they really didn't know exactly what was expected of them. They didn't know if I did A, B, and C, I would make or exceed my target. So they went and they did a wonderful training course. And that was the business, and that is how communication helped that business. They increased their logistics delivery, say, by 50%. So it's actually very simple, but we forget to put it on paper. Then the evaluators also want to see, did you do research? Like with my client this morning, it drives me crazy if they come with a pre-solution of, yes, we're going to employ you and you're going to do this for us. You're going to bring a solution into the field which nobody has access to. My first question to the client is, I'd love to work on this with you. Please, will you share the research with me? I'd like to understand how you've solved this issue of getting the connectivity into the forestry fields in Swaziland. And it's what do you mean? they didn't even know that these people don't have cell phones that can use these apps. They didn't know that in the hills and the valleys, in the forestry areas, there's no signal. The employees, they've got no way of accessing the apps that's supposed to make. So the judges want to see it. Tell us that story so that we can understand why you decided to do what you did. Next slide, please, Nat.
Sorry, Elsabe.
Yes.
Elsabe, I'm so sorry to budge in here. Please just remember that, especially with your gold quill, it is evaluated by someone in Canada or America or Australia. They don't always understand the Africa context. For them, it's unthinkable that you cannot have access to Wi-Fi or a phone. So if you write your gold call specifically, just emphasize that more as to why you chose a more traditional method than a cutting edge new technology method. I just wanted to add that.
100%. And that line that Christine has now brought out is critical when you do your audience analysis. When you do your research, link the research to the audience analysis to show they haven't got A, that's why I gave them B. And when you write up your solution, you elaborate on that. Okay, right. In section 2, the stakeholder analysis, how well did the analysis that you did fit the solution, or how well did the solution fit the analysis? What is the alignment? The characteristics you explained in your audience analysis, do they speak to the solutions that you came up with? So as an evaluator, I want to know, did you share the right audience characteristics with me? Do they have prior knowledge? What is their education? If they're going to work on apps, did you do research to find out if they had the right um, access to these apps? What are their demographics? One of the projects that I worked on, there were 7 languages involved, and then dialects of those languages with foreign influences. How do you account to get the message to those people? Psychographics, especially in the Zululand, Moiland area, people are very superstitious. And one of our campaigns was almost railroaded because we didn't consider the superstitions in terms of the graphics we used. So you've got to show the evidence, not just the demographics. You've got to segment your audiences in little pockets and say, my primary audience, the most important people, this is who they are, and these are the factors that I had to analyze so that I could choose the right solutions. The second question they're going to evaluate is your research. What characteristics and mindsets and preferences did you identify that provides insight to your strategy? Your strategy is number 4, your solution that you came up with. Do those two talk to each other? How do you choose, companies who show appreciation by giving away corporate goods? You want to improve use of a certain platform, and then you run a competition and you say, oh, you're going to win a company cap. And then there's no appetite and no entries, but you've offered them a company cap. Did you actually do research to find out what motivates people? Is a company cap going to do it for them? And the third evaluation is, what factors will influence the strategy and the tactics? And that is where the rubber hits the road. What you learned about your audience, did that actually influence how you developed your messaging? The fact that people only speak Tsonga in a certain area, did you translate your stuff into Tsonga? The fact that people can't read, you working with an English illiterate group who do not read English. English is possibly the 3rd language, if even. Did you jump over to picture stories? Did you go and test your picture stories when you did your audience analysis to find out, do they prefer photographs? Do they like line drawings? And the fact that they actually do not understand emojis. Yeah, that's on stakeholder analysis. The next section. Thanks, Nat. How, okay, how well, okay, move on to the next section, please, Natalie. Okay, we're jumping the section on evaluation and measurement. We're going to cover that in the next overview. But what I can say about that is I support what Christine has already said. It's critical that you decide what is the problem and ask the client. So this will be successful if what? And the client will tell you, this project will be successful if I can increase my loads delivered by my logistics team by 30%. And that then drives your motivation to come up with your goals and objectives. So your objectives then, you're going to have to do output objectives. In other words, develop a training course, have 10 training sessions and include all my audiences, the numbers game, the things, tactical things you have to do. But then you're going to have to do surveys to determine the pre-knowledge and the post-knowledge, and to what degree did this training make it easier for you to be able to achieve the objective. So that on measurement and evaluation. So let's look at the solution overview. If there's a business need, and you've analyzed your objectives, and the goal is to have a successful logistics company that achieves its targets, and the objectives are to increase our delivered loads by 20 per year or by 10%, then what is your communication approach? How are we going to achieve that? So when I write my solution overview, I usually link it back to what the business need is, what the objective is that I want to achieve, and who the people are that I'm going to engage to get that done. Then the judges come and they look. They look at, was your thinking strategic? Now, strategic thinking in the example that I gave you of the client who wanted to implement an app to train staff on a certain platform to solve a problem, is it strategic to just decide, um, I want to do an app because apps are cool, and it's we're in the Gen Z century, and everybody likes apps and everybody likes tech, and we've got to be savvy. No, that's not strategic thinking. Strategic thinking is to go back to my audience analysis and then look at my analysis and say, who's the most important audience group here? Aha, it's my laborers who work in the fields and in the plantations and in the hills in Swaziland. So what plan can I come up to make this alive for them, to engage them, to make it possible for them to participate in this program? I can't have an app in online because they haven't got access to it. They don't speak English. They need translators. Aha, my research showed me they love stories, they love pictures, they love drama. So my research showed me that they previously had industrial theater at their church, and quite a large number of the people told me how fun it was and how much they loved it. So let's go and test industrial theater. That is strategic thinking. So it clearly explains how your business needs and the audience needs and your objectives are aligned with your creative approach, and how you got there. What tools did you use? Did you use a smartphone to put the app on, or did you bring industrial theater to them? What communication channels did you use? We know they don't read. So did you go and brief their supervisors to tell them the story with a picture or with a poster to explain to them what's coming? That's how the judge evaluates whether you are being strategic or not. The next point that they evaluate is to what extent did you involve the audience into your key messages? A key messages can be something very simple. For the people in the field, it would be come and attend this industrial theater, it's going to give you blah, blah, blah. It's just a call to action even. But in your solution overview, you've got to tell the judges what your strategy is to get the word to the people. And how do you align that everybody talks out of from one hymn sheet? What did it look like? Could the audience identify with the look and feel of your campaign? Was it something that's excites them and that's familiar to them? Then your executive summary of your tactical plan. Remember, you don't have to add Gantt charts, but make sure that you list your tactics and your timeline. How long did it take? Who got what, when, and how? Just tell us about it. Then demonstrate that the communication solution is aligned with the business needs. This closes this section. It says, because the business needed the field workers to understand how to reduce fire, we wanted to reduce fires by 30%, so we focused on doing a roadshow that showed them the dangers of how fires, the top 5 reasons for how fires are started in their communities and how to prevent it. Very simple. Okay, next slide. Implementation and challenges. It's critical. Your budget, your judges look at, did you provide some kind of a budget? You can express it as a percentage if you have to, but you've got to, there's got to be a budget in. You actually scored, don't get marked up if there's no budget. Talk to them about how tough it was. What resources and timelines did you have? Did you have enough staff, or did you have to do some of the work yourself? What were the challenges you faced? How did you manage those challenges? How was the communication solution aligned with the business need? Tell them the communication solution was aligned with the business need because we did the following. You've got to show them that as a communicator, you are not just somebody who executes on other people's commands. You can think creatively and strategically, and then tell them what your role was. Make your role visible. If it was a team effort, say it was a team effort, but you led the project and let them know that. Next slide, please. Measurement and evaluation. This is my final slide. I usually, when I write my goals and objectives, I do it in a table format, and I split my table in half. And so I write my objectives in the left column. We want to reduce the fires by 30%. And then when I write my measurement and evaluation, I write after the project, the measurement down there. So you measure, and then you say, we measured the fires and they were reduced by 35%. So I show the two against each other so that the judges don't have to run around looking for it. But then I make a note in the section to say, refer back to section 4, where I show you measurement and the evaluated results. And then in here, in the evaluation, I actually tell my story of how I evaluate. How do you convince your client that you were successful? Only measure what you set out to achieve. Don't report on stuff that you measured that were not part of your goals and objectives. It's a waste of space. Judges need to see the outputs and the outcomes. You've got to show them what changed, not just the things you did. Held 5 town halls, did a training program. What was the outcome? So what changed for this company because of the training program you did? And then you tell your evaluation story. I usually ask my clients to send me on paper their opinion of the impact of this program. And usually if the project was a success, they will give you a glowing review, which I then include here. You can include reference to your surveys, something out of an interview, a little picture of a data dashboard, feedback that your client gave you, or anything that proves that this shifted. And the best evaluation sections, like a before and after story, with the numbers and the impact and not just the impressions. That's just a very quick overview of what the evaluators do to the exact questions that they score you on. I've put the PowerPoint in the chat in case you want to have a look at it later. Thank you, Sheila.
Thank you so much, Elsabe. I think it's time, before we wrap up, if we could all just, we'd love to capture a quick moment with everyone who joined us today. So if you are comfortable, please turn on your camera for a group photo. Natalie, if I can ask you to please just take the photo. It will only take a few seconds. And we'd love to just mark this occasion. So I think let's do this if everyone is happy. Can I say 3, 2, let's give it a few seconds. 3, 2, anyone else, your cameras?
Yay, there's another one. Hello.
Okay, so let's do this. 3, 2, 1. Let's go for it, Natalie. Cheers. Natalie, you good?
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay, great. Thank you. So then just lastly to...
Nengi joined later. Nengi, Nat, please retake the photo.
Okay.
Anurukem, Nengi, Amandi, please switch on your cameras. Great. Oh, yeah, Africa is here. Nat, are you
3,
taking the
2.
pic?
yeah, got it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Brilliant.
So thank you to each of our panelists for your honesty, your insight, and the encouragement. We'll take a few minutes for any questions. So if anyone has any questions, please, you can drop them in the chat. Raise your hand if you'd like to speak live. While everyone's thinking of their questions, just a quick reminder, early bird entries close on Friday, the 15th of August. Final deadline, 15 October 2025, and winners will be announced in November 2025. I think as we mentioned earlier, if you haven't already joined, please join our Silver Quill LinkedIn group. The link is in the chat where we post extra tips, entry tools, support material, mentorship pods, and clinic invites. From all of us, thank you for showing up, for leaning in, and for stepping into strategic excellence. We can't wait to see your work. Are there any questions? I don't see any questions. Okay, great. Thank you, everyone, and have a lovely afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.